This year honestly felt like it shot by like a bullet. Then I look at the games that came out this year and I feel like it never actually ended. Trying to get through Forspoken felt like it was a million years ago, and it's only gotten crazier from there. This has been possibly one of the strongest years in video game history. We've had games like Atomic Heart, Redfall, Skull Island, Rise of Kong, The Day Before, Gollum, and Overwatch 2. Okay, but let's talk about this seriously. With an insane roster of games coming out, both big and independent, it's been impossible to look away from where the industry is headed, both in a technological sense as well as how much the audience is growing. In that same vein, my channel has seen immense growth that I could not have predicted, and I am so thankful and so proud of what I've been able to achieve this year with your help. With that being said, let's put the focus of this video where it's deserved. Number 10 this year is also my honorable mention because the game's not actually out yet. Raven's Watch takes place in the fabled land of Reverie, where fairy tale characters have been brought together to fight against the nightmares that are corrupting the world. You can play as Beowulf, Aladdin, Little Red Riding Hood who turns into the wolf. The game's been out in early access for a while, receiving pretty consistent updates which are helping develop it into a more fleshed out roguelike. You spend a lot of your time running around the map killing monsters and collecting resources as well as saving people. But what makes the game work so well is the character design. They're all very distinct, carrying their own set of abilities that play together, with Beowulf and Red acting as brawlers, Aladdin being a dexterous speedster. Even the Pied Piper is satisfying to play as. You can belt out hearty tunes that damage your foes while slowly amassing a small rat army as you do so. It's got a bit of a way to go, but what I've played so far has been very promising, and I'd recommend it to anyone who's looking for a new roguelike to dip their toes into. I mean, it's got Geppetto in it, people. What other game lets you play as Geppetto? Like my video on this game, I'm going to quickly preface this by saying that I've never played a Warhammer game before, and the only reason I went for this one was because Raoul Coley told me to buy it, and the art style. Design is a big deal to me. You could have two games with identical experiences, and I'd still go for the one that looked nicer and cuter. Warhammer Boltgun's retro design did it every favor, and that's in all departments. Blowing some guy apart with a shotgun is just more fun when it sounds like this, don't you think? Ripping a giant frog monster apart with a chainsaw is almost kinda cutesy when it looks a bit blocky. Boltgun is sharp, tactile, and it doesn't take too long to finish either. The level design is almost web-like, spreading you out and leading you in every which way like you've been dropped into a sandbox filled with murderous little goblins. But it's never boring, and these large levels ever so slowly lead up to massive boss fights that will have you running for dear life. It's pretty great. Lottlnord is an adorable deep-sea diving game where you find yourself in a polluted alien landscape that needs a good scrubbing. With simple and upbeat tunes to keep you company, you get to cleaning and find a thriving ecosystem underneath the filth that's been left behind. You help bring life back to coral reefs and shipwrecks all throughout this world. The gameplay is pretty simplistic, but the design choices make them satisfying in the same vein as Power Washing Simulator, and nothing's hurt by the introduction of the Lottles themselves, as these axolotl-like fish start to populate the areas you clean up, follow you around, and play with toys you build for them. I mean, you can even cook them a little fishy treat. Lottlnord is cute, short, fun, and calming, and it comes with the added benefit that every time the game is purchased, the publishers give a small donation to the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Group. Also, you can drive a buggy that works like an electric toothbrush. If I could give Lethal Company an award for being the stupid fun game, that's what I would do. And what I mean by that is, thank God we have a new multiplayer game that lets you succeed while being as stupid as you want. It has been so long since a game like this has come out, but with the twist that it's utterly fucking terrifying. I'm not good with jump scares, I'm not good with being scared in general, but then again, in what other game can I watch my friends also scream and run away as we get chased down by a monster beyond our comprehension? The goal here doesn't even matter, that's how fun this game is. I don't give a shit about the gameplay loop, it's fine, it's what Lethal Company does with it that matters. Searching an empty maze of a warehouse for scrap would be boring on its own, right? Well, add in a couple of monsters that are remorseless and hunt you down. Makes it a bit more fun. Oh, the level design only adds to the fear? That's even better. Oh, the game has proximity voice chat specifically so that you can hear your teammates being killed, leaving you in complete silence? perfection. Lethal Company is one of those great games that isn't competitive. I wouldn't even really call it cooperative either, because it's a beautiful mixture of both. You can work together, you can screw your friends over, or anything in between. It only takes your imagination. And that thing with the spring head, I fucking hate that thing. 2023 had an interesting start to it. I found myself getting into a lot of games that I wouldn't usually see myself playing. One of those was Your Only Move is Hustle. This fighting game may look fairly simple, but then you realize that it's actually turn-based, and that's the kicker. Yomi Hustle hands you a few different tool belts to choose from and drops you into an empty fighting arena, giving you free reign to test out your abilities and discover the quickest way to get decimated. Once the game is over, it then takes every round of combat and plays it out in real time like a very violent stop-motion film being showed to you, then you got to participate in the carnage. There are so many ways each fight can play out based on your moves, some of which aren't even available to you straight out of the gate, so you're never that sure of how it's gonna go. I'm not one for fighting games, I have zero skill in them. My favorite way to play Smash Brothers is randomized maps with all items on, which is just a better way to... We won't get into that. But Yomi Hustle did something weird and strange and made me get interested. It's $7 on Steam, it was made by one guy, just give it a try. Whoever thought that fishing could be combined with horror to create one of the most appealing video games of last year? Well, Black Salt Games did, which is why they created Dredge. While I love it for what it is, I'm also pleased to see a game from the Southern Hemisphere make it into the spotlight, even if just for a minute. This New Zealand-based indie company cooked up a concept everyone else was too unimaginative to even dream of and did it perfectly. You know why? Because they took the ideas fishing game and spooky ocean game, reduced them down to their finest and simplest elements, and put that 2 and 2 together. The story to Dredge is not the focus, but it's there, it's creepy, and it works. The music is not the focus, but it's there, it's unsettling, kinda haunting, and it works. The art style is not the focus, but it's simple and strong, and it works. The fishing part is not the focus, but it's straightforward and satisfying, and it works. Then the sun goes down, and you find out just what makes Dredge tick. And it's the promise of the unknown. That eeriness, that creeping, crawling fear factor that slowly sneaks its way on screen like a piece of music building to a crescendo. It's frightening, but you don't want to take your eyes off it. You sail away as fast as you can, but you've got your camera turned to face the monster the entire time, just so you can catch a peek. The more time you spend here, the more the mystery unfolds, and it's not this ever-present story that occupies your time. Instead, it is an unraveling of this world that you are guided through. It goes from calm to a raging storm, back to stillness in just a minute, leaving you drifting on a sea that you cannot leave. Dredge is one of a kind. Wild Frost is the game on my list that I've seen on no one else's list. It has about 6,000 reviews on Steam and gets very little buzz. I know this video isn't likely to change that, but god fucking damn it, I refuse to stop talking about this game. A roguelike deck builder that looks like this might confuse you at first. It might have you thinking, oh, the art style's a bit adorable, it's probably an easy ride. Then you lose days to it. Made by just 2 people, Wild Frost is deceptively hard and very complicated at first. The bosses here all play completely differently from one another and present very different challenges. There are so many allies to collect that will change your tactics. Entire status effects are locked behind whichever clan you pick at the start of each run. It's addictively satisfying and puzzling. To give you a sense of it, I had 40 hours in this game in about July last year. Then Baldur's Gate 3 came out and I stopped playing for a few months. By the time December rolled around, I realized I had a half-finished video in my back pocket and tried to get it out. Working on that video made me want to play again, so I picked it up and I put another 50 hours into it in December alone. This game is actually dangerous. I'm even worried for myself just working on this section of the video. This game snuck up on me. I think it snuck up on all of us actually, given that it was announced on the very same day that it came out. Hi-Fi Rush may not have taken the world by storm, but it certainly left an imprint. Its comic book art style, flashy combat system, and electrifying music all blend together perfectly to create such a rewarding and memorable experience, one that I will definitely replay in the future. And I hope beyond hope that it gets a sequel, because a game like this absolutely deserves it. no matter what you may have had enough of this year, Hi-Fi Rush is there to cleanse your palate. Too much gross and grimy war games? Boom. Getting bogged down by complex and comprehensive combat? Boom. Repetitive and uninteresting stories that go nowhere? Boom, boom, boom. Hi-Fi Rush's biggest benefit is that it is so refreshing. It's like an oasis in the desert, and let me tell you, I'm still thirsty. Tears of the Kingdom is the game that I've probably had the hardest time speaking on, because on one hand it uses so much of the same map and system as Breath of the Wild, and on the other hand it offers a totally new and unbelievably fun experience that can keep you locked in for hours and hours and hours. It feels like they took the major pieces of Breath of the Wild, emptied out everything else, and said, great, how could we make this a totally new creation? And they succeeded. With the new abilities that you have on hand, the new regions to explore, not to mention the increasingly cinematic story on offer, you have something familiar, but wholly unique. That's without even touching the incredible crafting system Tears of the Kingdom has built in, which they took a year to perfect while the game was pretty much done. And no wonder when you look at how detailed it is, you can sit down for a minute, start looking through your inventory, put some bits and bobs together, test them out to see if they work. Then you realize there's a whole story you need to get back to, and it almost feels like everything else is a mini game on top of the hoverbike building campaign you've come up with in your head. Tears of the Kingdom did something incredible by letting me experience Breath of the Wild for the first time all over again, with the key difference being that everything is different, everything is changed, and you will never look at video games the same way. It has easily earned the number 2 spot on this list, and I haven't even finished it yet. I should probably finish it. I mean, honestly, what did you expect? We've had a good few years, but nothing comes close to this. Baldur's Gate 3 is an experience like no other. It is incomparable, I lost myself in this game, utterly and completely. As someone who's been playing D&D for about a decade, I never thought that something like this was possible. But they did it. Larian made Dungeons & Dragons the video game, while everything else on this list was a massive success creatively, mechanically, whatever other factor. Baldur's Gate 3 is the next step. It's our Portal 2, our Skyrim, our GTA 5, and I don't mean that every game should try and be this, but the legacy it's leaving behind is one that every major studio should be studying. In fact, they probably are. A strong focus on characters, world, and design philosophy. A promising and refreshing offer for the players, as well as a production schedule that doesn't treat the developers like they're worth less than dirt. It's an incredible feeling to be able to watch a game become a staple, a stepping point. But that's exactly what's happening here. Larian have been around for ages, pumping out highly praised games, but this is something on a completely different level. In that, I firmly believe it's going to change the landscape for RPGs. I mean, they even brought CRPGs back to the mainstream. No, I know Age of Empires is still around, but when was the last time you talked to someone about it? Since it came out, I've put just under 300 hours into this game across 4 different campaigns. I found unique content in every single one of them. Honestly, it feels like there might be no end to this game. It continues to impress me every minute that I keep playing, and I will never stop playing it. This is an unbelievable creative and technical achievement, and I feel better for having known it. Baldur's Gate 3 is not just my game of the year, it's yours. That's right, it's officially yours now. I've decided for you. It doesn't matter what you think. Baldur's Gate 3!
I'm gonna get you back to that ship. I'm gonna hand your body over to your family. Are they leaving me? What the fuck?